I asked the desk to announce a lost key with my exact keychain. I wanted her to hear it. The girl behind the counter had a face full of acne and a name tag that said Kelsey, and she looked at me like I'd just asked her to solve a calculus problem. You want me to announce that? I want you to announce a lost key, I said. Black rubber loop. Small silver whale charm. It's my daughter's. She gave it to me for Mother's Day. Kelsey blinked. There's no key in Lost and Found. I know. The key's still in the locker. I need the person who's in that locker to hear the description and realize she has the wrong key. Which locker? I don't know the number. That's the point. I want her to hear it and check. Kelsey stared at me for a long second. I could see her trying to make the math work, trying to figure out why I wasn't just asking for a new key from the front desk like every other member who lost their locker key. The answer was simple. I didn't want a new key. I wanted the scene. I wanted Claire to hear her name broadcast across the pool deck and know, with absolute certainty, that someone was coming for her. Kelsey picked up the microphone. Her voice echoed through the club, tinny and distorted, bouncing off the water and the tile and the bodies of every single person in that building. Attention Highland Park Athletic Club members and guests. We have a missing locker key. The keychain is a black rubber loop with a small silver whale charm. If you're in a locker with this keychain, please remove the key and return it to the front desk. Thank you. I stood at the counter and waited. The pool deck was loud, kids screaming, parents yelling, lifeguards blowing whistles. But I could feel the stillness under it, the way sound compresses in a room full of water and skin. The announcement cut through it like a razor. I heard the words bounce off the high ceiling and settle into every corner. I walked back toward the pool. Not running. Not hurrying. I kept my flip-flops slapping against the tile at the same pace I always walked, the pace of a woman who had 50 laps in her legs and a 52-year-old body that remembered being younger. I passed the deep end, past the diving board, past the row of lounge chairs where a group of mothers sat in matching sunglasses and said things to each other that were probably mean. Claire was at the edge. She had her back to me. I could see the crisscross straps of my suit, the navy fabric that I'd ordered from the Maji website after losing 40 pounds, the suit I'd never worn because I was saving it for something special. I'd hung it in my closet with the tag still attached. I'd looked at it every morning when I got dressed and told myself I'd wear it when I felt ready. Claire was wearing it right now, her wet hair plastered to her shoulders, her legs dangling in the water, laughing at something the woman next to her was saying. She hadn't heard the announcement. I knew she hadn't heard it. She was too busy performing, too busy being the fun aunt, the one who came to the pool on a Thursday afternoon because she had no job and no kids and no responsibilities. Claire had been that way her whole life. She was 47 years old and still acting like the world was a party she'd been invited to and never had to clean up. I watched her for 3 seconds. That was all I needed. The suit was unmistakable. The crisscross back. The high-cut leg. The exact shade of navy that had taken me 3 weeks to pick out because I kept going back and forth between that one and the olive green. I knew that suit like I knew the lines on my own face. I'd studied it in the mirror. I'd imagined myself in it. Hey, I said. Not loud. Just loud enough to carry. Claire turned. She looked at me. She didn't flinch. She smiled. That wide, toothy smile she'd been wearing since she was 12 years old, the smile that made people forgive her for things they shouldn't forgive. Elena, I didn't know you were coming today. Obviously. She laughed. What, you don't like my suit? I borrowed it. Hope you don't mind. I was at your house yesterday picking up your mail, and I saw it hanging in your closet. I thought, that's too beautiful to just sit there. You're never going to wear it. So I brought it. I figured you'd understand. I said nothing. I looked at the water, at the chlorinated blue ripples that surrounded her. I looked at the silver whale keychain dangling from her wrist, that cheap little charm that meant more to me than she could possibly know. My daughter had picked it out when she was 15, all eyeliner and attitude, and she'd handed it to me and said, "For your gym keys, Mom, so you don't lose them like you lose everything." I'd kept it for 6 years. Oh, I guess your key is on my wrist, Claire said. She held up her hand. I grabbed the wrong one. I'm a mess. You know how it is. We probably had the same locker assigned or something. I crushed the cigarette pack in my fist. I don't smoke. But I'd bought a pack at the gas station that morning because I knew I was going to need to put my hands somewhere, and I'd been holding it all afternoon like a tether. The cellophane crinkled. A single cigarette slid out and fell to the tile. Did you hear the announcement? I asked. What announcement? About a lost key. Black rubber loop. Silver whale charm. Claire's smile didn't change. I watched her face. The muscles around her eyes tightened, a microsecond of tension that anyone else would have missed. She blinked once, twice, then shook her head. No, I was in the water. Okay, I said. I'll just run and grab it for you, she said. The key. I'll go grab it from the locker and bring it to you. You wait here. I know which one it is. I don't think you need to do that, I said. No, I insist. It's my fault. I grabbed your key by mistake. Don't wait here like a dope. Go sit down, relax. I'll be right back. She pulled herself out of the water. The suit clung to her. My suit. I watched the water drip off it, watched her shake her hair out, watched her walk toward the women's locker room with my keychain swinging from her wrist like a trophy she'd won. I followed her. I didn't go into the locker room. I stood in the hallway outside, leaning against the wall, one hand in my pocket holding the cigarette pack I'd crushed into nothing. I could hear the voices from the pool deck, could hear the lifeguard on his whistle, could hear the distant thud of someone jumping off the diving board. I could hear the ventilation system humming above me. I could hear my own heartbeat, steady and deliberate. Kelsey appeared at my elbow. Mom, call the lifeguard in the chair closest to the women's locker room door, I said. Tell him to look at the security camera near locker 42. There's not a camera inside the locker room. I know. There's a camera in the hallway. The locker room door swings open. It catches the first row of lockers. That's the one I want. Kelsey looked at me for the second time that afternoon with the same blank confusion. Ma'am, I don't think I can do that. You can do that, I said. Because if you don't, I'm going to call your manager, and then I'm going to call my attorney, and then we're all going to be here until dinner time explaining why a member's belongings are being stolen while your staff watches. I don't want that. You don't want that. Tell the lifeguard to look at the camera. She went. I waited. The minutes stretched. I could feel the tile under my feet, the smooth cold tile that someone had mopped an hour ago and left smelling of bleach. I could feel the air conditioning blowing on my wet skin, raising goosebumps. I could feel everything, every single micro-sensation, because I had stopped being a woman at a pool and become something else entirely. I'd become the person who'd been waiting 6 weeks for this to happen. Claire came out of the locker room. She was in her own clothes now, a pair of white shorts and a pink tank top. My suit was rolled up in a ball under her arm. She was carrying my keychain, holding it up like a peace offering. Found it. See? I told you. Wrong locker. Complete mix-up. She handed me the key. I took it. I didn't say thank you. Claire, I said. What? I want you to listen to what they're about to say over the PA. She tilted her head. The question was on her lips, I could see it. The same question that had been on her face for 47 years. The one she always asked when she wanted to know if she'd gotten away with something. What are you talking about? The microphone crackled. Attention, all members and guests, Kelsey's voice said. We have a security incident near the women's locker room. Please direct your attention to the lifeguard station at the deep end. The lifeguard will be reading a locker number over the PA. If you're the occupant of that locker, please come to the front desk. Thank you. Claire's face changed. I watched the color drain out of it, the way the pink in her cheeks went pale and then white. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not confusion. Something closer to horror, the specific horror of someone who realized they'd been seen. I said, I know you grabbed my key by accident. But I also know you're about to find out that you've been recorded. Recorded, her voice cracked. The camera in the hallway catches the locker room door when it swings open. It caught you pulling my suit off in front of locker 42. It caught you folding it up. It caught every single thing you did in that 5 seconds you thought no one was watching. I don't listen. The lifeguard's voice replaced Kelsey's. It was a boy, maybe 19, trying to sound official and mostly failing. He read the number through the PA system, clear and slow, like he was reading a bingo call. Locker 42. Locker 42. If you are the occupant of locker 42, Please come to the front desk immediately. The number I'd given the desk, her number, echoed across the water, and she had nowhere to go. Claire stood in the hallway with her mouth open. I could see her brain working, could see the gears turning as she tried to figure out what I knew and how much I'd seen. She was good at this. She'd been good at this her whole life, that ability to pivot and smile and make everyone believe she was just a harmless disaster who stumbled into trouble by accident. But the accident had run out. That's my locker, she said. I know. I didn't do anything wrong. I just grabbed the wrong key. I was in a hurry. I didn't even look at the keychain. You didn't hear the announcement either. I told you I was in the water. Fine, I said. Then you have nothing to worry about. Go to the front desk. Tell them it was a mistake. They'll look at the footage, they'll see it was an honest mix-up, and that'll be the end of it. Claire's eyes flicked to the side. She was looking for an exit, looking for a way to turn this around, to make me the unreasonable one. I knew her playbook. I'd been reading it for 28 years. She would cry. She would apologize. She would say I was overreacting, and she was just trying to help, and why was I being so cruel to her? She'd done it before, every time she'd crossed a line, and Michael had always taken her side because she was his baby sister, and she couldn't help being the way she was. Elena, come on. She took a step toward me. This is ridiculous. You're making a scene over a swimsuit. A swimsuit. I'll buy you a new one. I'll buy you 10. Just tell the lifeguard it was nothing. You didn't hear the announcement, I said. What do you didn't hear it? You said you were in the water. The announcement was for a locker key with a black rubber loop and a silver whale charm. That exact description. The whole pool deck heard it. The whole pool deck except you, because you were in the water. That's what you said. She nodded. Yes, that's right. Except you weren't in the water when the announcement happened. You were sitting on the edge talking to a woman in a pink swim cap. I saw you. I was standing at the desk. I watched you through the window. The blood drained out of her face again. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. You heard the announcement, I said. You heard the description. You knew it was my key. And instead of walking over to the desk to tell them you had it, you sat there for another 40 seconds and waited to see what would happen. You wanted to see if I'd figure it out. I don't know what you're talking about. You wanted to see if I'd figure it out, I repeated. Because that's the part you enjoy. Not the suit. Not the key. The part where you watch me try to catch up. You've been doing it for years. Little things. The comment about my weight at Thanksgiving. The way you walked into my kitchen and started rearranging my cabinets because you said I wasn't using the space efficiently. The time you made a toast at my daughter's engagement party about how Michael always told you he wished you'd found someone like him. You've been taking pieces of my life for years. I just let you. I let you because I was trying to be gracious. I let you because Michael asked me to. I let you because I thought you were pathetic and I didn't want to kick you while you were down. Claire's face was a mask now. All the color gone. All the performance drained out. She looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before, respect. Not the fake respect she gave me when she was trying to get something. Real, cold, terrified respect. Elena. Her voice was small. I don't know what you think you know. I know that you've been sleeping with my husband for 18 months. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try. She stood there in the hallway of the Highland Park Athletic Club, wearing white shorts and a pink tank top, a rolled-up navy swimsuit under her arm, and she didn't say a single word. I know about the credit card charges, I said. I know about the hotel in Scottsdale where Michael told me he had a conference. I know about the emails I found on his work account, the ones you thought he'd delete, but he didn't because he's careless and you're a fool if you thought he'd protect you. I know about the necklace you're wearing right now, the one he bought with our money, the one you thought I wouldn't notice, because you've worn it every time I've seen you for the last 4 months. Claire touched her neck. The necklace was gold, a small pendant that hung just below her collarbone. I'd seen it a dozen times. I'd asked her about it once and she'd said it was a gift from a friend. I'd believed her. What do you want? She asked. I want you to take that swimsuit back to my house and hang it in my closet. I want you to take the keychain off your wrist and hand it to me. And I want you to stop coming to my home. You're no longer welcome. That's not your call, she said. It's Michael's house too. I laughed. I actually laughed. The sound came out of me like a release, like pressure escaping a valve. Claire's face twisted. She hated being laughed at more than she hated anything else. It's my house, I said. I paid for it. I paid for it with years of my life, years of my time, years of my labor. I managed the renovations. I managed the contractors. I managed the property taxes and the insurance and the maintenance and every single thing that kept that house standing while Michael was off being an architect. I paid for it in the same way I paid for the swimsuit, which was with our joint account, which means I paid for it. The fact that Michael also contributed money doesn't make it less mine. It makes it ours. And I'm the one who's going to decide who steps inside it. Claire stepped back. I watched her, the way her body responded to the weight of my words. She was used to dominating conversations, used to being the one who made other people uncomfortable. She wasn't used to having that turned on her. You can't do this, she said. I just did. She looked at the keychain in her hand. For a second, I thought she was going to throw it at me, that small silver whale that my daughter had picked out in a mall kiosk when she was 15. Claire's fingers tightened around it. Then she loosened, just slightly, and handed it to me like it was a grenade she'd been holding too long. You're insane, she said. You're actually insane. You think this is about Michael, you think Michael and I. That's non-stop, I said. She stopped. I've been married to your brother for 28 years. I know him better than you do. I know the way he chooses food, the way he hums in the shower, the way he gets defensive when he's caught, and the way he gets cruel when he's cornered. I know all of it. I know every lie he's ever told me and every truth he's ever hidden. And I know that he's weak. I know that he's the kind of man who needs someone to tell him he's special. I was that someone for a long time. And then you stepped in and started telling him how special he was, and he liked it. He liked it enough to cheat. But he didn't cheat because of you. He cheated because of him. You were just the body. Claire flinched. Go home, Claire. Go home and stay there. And if you talk to Michael before I do, tell him I'll be at the house tomorrow at 6. We have things to discuss. I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew what her face would look like. I'd seen it 1,000 times, the moment when she realized she'd finally gone too far, and there was no one there to clean up after her. The pool deck was still buzzing. Kelsey was at the front desk, pretending to look busy. The lifeguard had gone back to his chair. The summer camp kids were still cannonballing off the diving board. The mothers in their matching sunglasses were still whispering. No one looked at me. No one cared. I was just another middle-aged woman in a wet bathing suit, walking through the club with a keychain in her hand. I drove home in my Ford Explorer, the seat damp from my suit. The AC was on full blast, and I sat in the parking lot for a minute before I turned the ignition. I'd bought that car in 2019, right before everything changed. I'd been so proud of myself for buying it, for walking into the dealership alone and picking it out and signing the papers by myself. Michael had been away on a business trip. I'd called him to tell him I'd done it, and he'd said, "Good for you," in the kind of voice that meant he'd already forgotten. I drove through the hills of Highland Park, past the houses I'd once wanted to live in, past the coffee shop where I'd spent too many afternoons trying to decide if I was happy. I drove past the grocery store where I'd run into Claire 6 weeks ago, the first time I'd seen her in months, and the way she'd hugged me too long and laughed too loud and touched her necklace. I remembered the necklace. I remembered seeing it and thinking it looked familiar. I remembered going home and going through our bank statements and finding the charge from a jewelry store 3 days after Michael's supposed conference in Scottsdale. I'd known for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of watching them. 6 weeks of tracking credit card charges and reading deleted emails and pretending I didn't know anything. 6 weeks of being the wife who didn't know, the wife who was too stupid or too trusting to see what was right in front of her face. But I'd known. I'd known the whole time. And I'd waited. I parked in my driveway and walked into my house. The house. The house I'd found myself in after my mother died, after my father remarried, after I'd stopped being anyone's daughter and become Michael's wife. I'd moved in here when I was 24, a whole life ago, a whole person ago. I'd hung curtains and picked out paint colors and decorated the nursery and watched my children grow up. I'd made this house a home, and Michael had spent 18 months making me a fool. I walked upstairs and went to the bedroom. The closet was half his, half mine. I opened the door and looked at his clothes. His suits. His shirts. His shoes. I ran my hand over a jacket he'd worn to our daughter's wedding. The tags were still on my swimsuit. The suit I'd never worn. I couldn't touch it. I left it in the bag on the dresser and walked into the bathroom. I'd put it off for 6 weeks. I'd waited and planned and prepared. But now it was time. I didn't need to know any more details. I had enough to burn him. But burning wasn't the point anymore. The point was to get free. I called Laura that night. Laura was the only person I could call, the only one who'd know what to do. She'd been my lawyer for 10 years, ever since she handled the probate on my mother's estate, and she'd never once told me what I wanted to hear. She told me what I needed to hear, and that was the difference between her and everyone else in my life. Tell me everything, she said. Don't leave anything out. I need to know what we're working with. I sat on the floor of my bedroom with my phone pressed to my ear. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator downstairs. I'd been sitting there for an hour, going through the files I'd been building for 6 weeks. Credit card statements. Bank records. Screenshots of emails. The photos I'd taken of Claire's necklace and the jewelry store receipt I'd found in Michael's briefcase. I'd printed everything out and kept it in a folder in the back of my closet, behind my winter boots. I need to know if I have enough for a divorce, I said. Laura laughed. I could hear the sound of her computer keyboard clicking in the background. She was probably at her desk, still working, because Laura never stopped working. You have enough for a divorce if you want a divorce. You don't need proof. You don't need evidence. You just need to want one. But if you want to come out of this with your assets intact, then yes, you need evidence, and yes, I want to see everything you have. I've been documenting it for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. You've known for 6 weeks and you didn't call me. I needed to be sure. Laura was quiet for a second. The keyboard stopped. I could hear her breathing, the kind of steady breathing she did when she was thinking. What changed today? Claire wore my swimsuit to the pool. Claire, your sister-in-law, Michael's sister, yes. She wore your swimsuit. I had it hanging in the closet. Tag's still on. She took it. She wore it at the club. I saw her. Let me get this straight, Laura said. She broke into your house, stole your swimsuit, wore it in front of you, and you think that's the problem. I know about the affair. I've known for 6 weeks. Today was the first time I let her know I knew. You're telling me this happened at a pool? In front of people. About 200 people. Mostly kids. Laura was quiet again. Then she made a sound, half laugh and half sigh. Elena, you already have a divorce. You just haven't filed it yet. But this is a nightmare. Not for you. For them. A public humiliation. At the country club. Wearing your clothes. That's a story that doesn't go away. That's a story that follows someone for the rest of their life. You understand that, right? Good. The keyboard started clicking again. What do you want from me? I want to know what I can take. Everything. You can take everything. With 20 years of marriage, you can take half of everything he's accumulated during the marriage. The house. The retirement accounts. The investment portfolio. Half of the business. Alimony. You can take it all. I don't want it all. I want what's fair. Fair isn't the same as revenge. Revenge isn't what I want either. I want to be done. I want to close this chapter and start the next one. I want to be free of him. Laura was quiet for a long moment. I could hear her thinking, could hear her weighing the options. Then file. I'll draft the papers tomorrow. We'll file by Friday. But you need to be prepared. He's going to fight you. He's going to bring in lawyers. He's going to drag this out. Are you ready for that? I'm ready. What about the kids? The question hit me like a slap. I'd been so focused on Michael and Claire that I'd pushed my children to the side. My daughter, Sarah, 26 and living in Portland. My son, James, 23 and finishing grad school in Boston. They were adults. They had their own lives. But they still had a father, and that father was about to be exposed as a liar and a cheat. I'll tell them, I said. After I file. I'll tell them myself. They'll want to know why. I'll tell them the truth. Enough of it. They don't need the details. but they deserve to know what happened. Laura made another sound, this one softer. You're good at this. You're good at the hard stuff. You always have been. I've known you for 10 years and I've never seen you break. I'm breaking right now. Breaking. Not broken. There's a difference. I hung up the phone and sat in the dark. The house was quiet. It had always been quiet, even when the kids were home, even when Michael was here. I'd always thought of it as peaceful, the way the silence settled over the walls and made everything feel calm. But now I wondered if it hadn't been peaceful at all. Now I wondered if it had been empty. I went downstairs and opened the refrigerator. There was a bottle of white wine in the door, a Pinot Grigio I'd bought for a dinner party that never happened. I opened it and poured a glass and drank it standing in the kitchen. The wine was cold and sharp and it burned going down. I poured another glass. The phone buzzed on the counter. Michael's name on the screen. I stared at it for a long moment. I let it ring. I let it go to voicemail. I let the silence fill the house again. He called again 30 seconds later. I picked up. Elena. His voice was tight. Are you okay? Claire called me. She said something happened at the club. She said you were acting strange. She stole my swimsuit. You're what, Claire? At the pool. She stole my swimsuit. She wore it in front of me. She said she borrowed it. Elena, listen. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Claire's always doing that. She's always borrowing things without asking. You know how she is. I know how she is. She didn't mean anything by it. She's just careless. You know that. You've always known that. I've always known that, I repeated. I've always known that she's careless. I've always known she takes things that don't belong to her. I've always known she pushes boundaries and crosses lines and expects everyone to forgive her because she's just Claire. But I'm done forgiving her. Elena, calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down when your sister just spent the afternoon parading around in my clothes in front of everyone at the club. She didn't mean stop. I said it sharp, loud. The wine glass rattled on the counter. Stop making excuses for her. The silence on the line was long and heavy. I could hear Michael breathing, the same way he breathed when he was trying to figure out his next move. He was calculating. He'd always been calculating, even when he pretended he wasn't. Elena, he finally said. I don't know what Claire did or didn't do. But I know you, and I know you're not the kind of person who loses her temper over a swimsuit. So tell me what's really going on. I waited. The sentence I'd rehearsed for 6 weeks was there, sitting on my tongue, ready to come out. But it stuck. I couldn't say it. Not like this, not on the phone, not with the wine still burning in my throat. Come home, I said. Tomorrow at 6. I'm out of town. I have a meeting. Come home, Michael. Tomorrow at 6. We need to talk. It's the middle of the week. I can't just come home or I'll come to you. But I promise you won't like that better. I hung up. I poured another glass of wine. I drank it standing in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, my bare feet cold on the tile. I looked around at the house I'd made. The photos on the walls, the books on the shelves, the curtains I'd sewed myself in the first year of our marriage. I looked at all of it and I saw it through new eyes. Not the eyes of the wife who'd built a home. The eyes of the woman who was about to tear it down. I went into the living room and sat in the armchair. The armchair I'd always sat in, the one that faced the window and gave me a view of the front yard. I'd spent hours in that chair. Reading. Thinking. Waiting for Michael to come home from work. I'd been waiting my whole life for him, and now I realized that the waiting was the problem. I opened my phone and scrolled through the photos. The screenshots of the credit card statements. The pictures of Claire's necklace. The photo I'd taken of Michael's passport the last time he said he had to travel for work. I'd made a copy of the itinerary. I'd cross-referenced it with the hotel charges. I'd found the whole thing was a lie. 6 weeks. 6 weeks I'd spent compiling evidence. 6 weeks I'd spent preparing. I know what I want, I said out loud. No one was there to hear it. I want my life back. I closed the phone and looked out the window. The neighbor's cat was walking across the lawn, a tabby with a collar and a bell. I watched it move, slow and deliberate, stalking something I couldn't see. It paused, crouched, then pounced at nothing. It sat back on its haunches and looked around with the same casual authority that cats always had. I thought about the way Claire had looked at me in the hallway. The terror in her eyes when she realized I knew. The way she'd handed me the keychain like it was the last piece of her defense. Tomorrow at 6. Michael would come home. He would sit in the living room. He would try to talk his way out of it. But he couldn't talk his way out of this. I had enough to burn him. But burning wasn't the point anymore. The point was to get free. And I was ready to be free. I was going to use every single thing I knew, every piece of evidence, every document, every number, and I was going to make him understand that this marriage was over. Not because he cheated. Because he thought I wouldn't find out. The phone buzzed again. Michael. I watched it ring. I watched his name flash across the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then I turned the phone off. In the morning, I'd see my lawyer. I'd file the papers. I'd start the process. But tonight, I was going to sit in the darkness and drink my wine and let myself feel all of it. The anger. The betrayal. The relief. The exhaustion of carrying a secret for 6 weeks. I had enough to burn him. But burning wasn't the point anymore. The point was to get free. The next morning, I woke up before the alarm. I'd barely slept, the wine turning sour in my stomach somewhere around 2 in the morning, but I wasn't tired. I was wired. My body felt like a tuning fork that someone had hit and forgotten to stop. I showered and dressed in jeans and a black sweater. No makeup. I wanted him to see me without the mask, without the careful prettiness I'd performed for 28 years. I wanted him to see the woman he'd been ignoring. Laura's office was in a strip mall near the freeway, between a nail salon and a yoga studio. I'd always thought it was funny that Laura chose to practice law in a strip mall, like she didn't want her clients to feel intimidated by glass towers and marble lobbies. She was a good lawyer because she knew how to talk to regular people, and regular people didn't need mahogany desks. They needed someone who told them the truth. I walked in at 9. Laura was already at her desk, a cup of coffee in one hand and a folder in the other. She looked up when I came in, and I watched her face. She was doing what she always did, reading me, trying to figure out how much I could handle. You look like hell, she said. I feel like hell. She pushed a cup of coffee across the desk. Drink. Then tell me what happened after we talked last night. I told her. Michael's call. The conversation. The way I'd hung up on him. The way I'd sat in the dark and turned off my phone and let the silence fill the house. He's coming tonight, I said. At 6. I'm going to tell him. Tell him you're filing. Tell him I know. Tell him I'm done. Tell him everything. Everything. I have the evidence, I said. I have 6 weeks of evidence. I have credit card charges. I have emails. I have photos. I have proof of the affair. I have proof that he used our money to buy her things. I have it all. I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to let him see exactly how much I know. Laura leaned back in her chair. She was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You're going to tell him all of it in one sitting. Elena, that's a lot. That's more than a lot. That's a tidal wave. I know. Do you have any idea how he's going to react? Yes. He's going to lie. He's going to say it's not what I think. He's going to try to gaslight me. He's going to tell me I'm overreacting. He's going to say Claire seduced him. He's going to say he loves me and he's sorry and he'll never do it again. All true, Laura said. All standard. And then I'm going to give him the papers. Let me see the papers. I pulled the folder out of my bag and handed it to her. She opened it, flipped through the pages, nodded. This is good. This is solid. You're asking for the house. You're asking for alimony. You're asking for half of the business assets. You're asking for everything you're entitled to. But you're leaving the business separate. That's smart. That gives him room to negotiate. It makes you look reasonable. I don't want to destroy him. I just want to be done. You have no idea what he's going to do when he sees these papers, Laura said. He might get angry. He might get sad. He might get vindictive. He might call his lawyer and try to hide assets. He might do all of it. You need to be prepared for that. Can he hide assets? He can try. But you've already documented everything. You've been tracking the accounts. You've got 6 weeks of statements. He's going to have a hard time pretending he doesn't have money when you can see exactly where it went. Good. Laura closed the folder and handed it back to me. What time is he coming? 6. What are you going to do between now and then? I don't know. Go home. Sit in the living room. Wait. Don't wait, Laura said. Go do something. Go for a walk. Go to lunch. Go see a movie. Don't sit in that house and wait for him. That's what you've been doing your whole marriage. Waiting. Stop. Go live your life. He'll show up when he shows up. I walked out of Laura's office and stood in the parking lot. The sun was high and bright, the kind of July day that made everything look too sharp, too clean. The nail salon next door was playing music through a speaker, a pop song I didn't recognize. The yoga studio had its door open, and I could see people inside stretching on mats. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to sit in that house and wait. Laura was right. I'd spent my whole life waiting. Waiting for Michael to come home. Waiting for him to notice me. Waiting for him to appreciate everything I'd done. I was done waiting. I walked to the nail salon and went inside. The woman at the desk smiled at me. What can I do for you today? A manicure. Color, I don't know. Surprise me. She nodded and led me to a chair. I sat down and let her take my hands. She started with the filing, the gentle scrape of the file against my nails. I watched her work. I watched her smooth the edges and push back my cuticles and apply the base coat. It was methodical and slow, and it was the first time in 6 weeks that I'd felt like I wasn't doing something. How's your day going? The woman asked. Okay. She was Vietnamese, probably in her 40s, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She was rubbing lotion into my hands now, the kind of lotion that smelled like lavender. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to tell her about the pool and the swimsuit and the affair and the papers in my bag. But I didn't. I just let her do her work. You have beautiful hands, she said. Strong hands. You work with them, used to. I was a graphic designer. I don't do much anymore. Design is good work. Creative. Maybe you should go back. Maybe I will. She nodded and started on the polish. I'd asked her to surprise me and she chose a deep red. Not the red of anger. The red of something else. Something that said I wasn't afraid to take up space. I sat through the entire manicure, all 40 minutes of it, and didn't check my phone once. When she was finished, I paid her and gave her a $20 tip. She smiled and thanked me and told me to come back again. I drove to a diner near the freeway and ordered a burger and fries. I hadn't eaten in 24 hours. I ate it all. The food tasted like nothing and everything. I ate because I needed to keep going, and keeping going required fuel. At 4:30, I drove home. The house was empty. I went inside and sat in the living room. The armchair by the window. I sat down and watched the afternoon light shift through the glass, the way it moved across the floor and the furniture and the walls. I'd seen that light 1,000 times. I'd seen it shift through every season, every year, every stage of my life. I'd sat in this chair and watched my children grow up. I'd sat in this chair and watched Michael walk through the door. I'd sat in this chair and thought, this is my life. This is what I built. But I was wrong. I hadn't built a life. I'd built a cage. And I'd been so busy decorating the cage that I hadn't noticed the bars. At exactly 5:45, I heard the front door open. Michael's footsteps in the hallway. His key in the lock. His voice calling out, Elena, I'm home. I didn't answer. He came into the living room. He was still in his work clothes, a navy suit and a blue tie. He looked tired. He looked the way he always looked after a long day, weary and distracted and already somewhere else. He saw me in the chair and stopped. I came home as soon as I could, he said. What's going on? Sit down. Elena, sit down, Michael. He sat. He sat on the couch across from me, the same couch he'd sat on for 28 years. He was fidgeting with his tie, loosening it the way he always did when he was nervous. He was trying to look calm, trying to look like this was just another conversation, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Claire called me again, he said. She's upset. She said you accused her of something. She said you made a scene at the club. Claire stole my swimsuit. Elena, that's not I know about the affair. The words hung in the air between us. I watched his face. The color drained out of it, the same way it had drained out of Claire's face in the hallway. He opened his mouth. closed it, opened it again. I don't know what you're talking about, he finally said. You're not going to say anything, I asked. No. I'm not. Michael. I have receipts. I have credit card statements. I have hotel charges. I have emails. I have 6 weeks of evidence. I know about Claire. I know about the affair. I know about the money you spent on her. I know everything. And you're going to sit there and tell me you don't know what I'm talking about. He was shaking his head. Elena, you have to believe me. There's nothing going on with Claire. She's my sister. You're paranoid. You're overreacting. Stop, I said. I'd said the same thing to Claire. Stop lying to me. I'm not lying. 18 months, I said. 18 months, Michael. Hotel rooms. Gifts. Dinners. All of it on our credit card. All of it while I was sitting at home waiting for you to come back from your business trips. I have everything. I have the addresses of the hotels. I have the dates. I have the confirmation emails. I have photos of the receipts you left in your briefcase. I know everything. Michael's hands were on his knees. He was gripping his own legs, pressing down, like he was trying to keep himself from floating away. Elena, listen to me. Whatever you think you know, whatever you think you've found, I'm not stupid, I said. I've never been stupid. I've just been patient. And I've been patient for a very long time. But I'm not patient anymore. He sat back on the couch. Is this what the pool thing was about? The announcement you set her up? You set her up in front of everyone. I didn't set her up. I asked for a lost key. I described the keychain. I gave the number of the locker. That's all I did. Your locker number? No. Her locker number. She was wearing my suit. She had to open the locker to change out of it. The camera caught her. Security camera. The hallway outside the locker room. It catches the door when it swings open. It caught everything. I watched his face. He was processing. He was trying to figure out how much I'd seen, how much I'd planned. He was trying to figure out if he could talk his way out of it. But he couldn't talk his way out of this. I'd made sure of that. What do you want? He asked. I want a divorce. Elena. I want a divorce. I want the house. I want alimony. I want half of the business assets. I want what I'm entitled to. And I want you to leave. This is insane. This is insane, Elena. You're going to throw away 28 years of marriage because you thought I wouldn't find out. He stopped. He was looking at me now with a different expression. Not denial. Not anger. Fear. You're right, I said. You're right that I'm not throwing away 28 years of marriage. You are. You did it 18 months ago. You just didn't tell me. I didn't want to hurt you. Too late. The silence between us was thick and heavy. I could see the war going on inside his head. He wanted to say something, wanted to fix it, wanted to find the right combination of words that would make me change my mind. But there was no right combination of words. There was nothing he could say that would undo what he'd done. Or when did you find out? He asked. 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. He laughed, a hollow sound. You've known for 6 weeks. And you didn't say anything. You let me come home and kiss you. You let me tell you I loved you. You let me put my arms around you. Yes. You cold, calculating. What's my name? He stopped. He looked at me with confusion. What's my name? Michael, what's my name? Elena. Your name is Elena. When was the last time you called me that? He opened his mouth and closed it. I watched the gears turn. I watched him search for the memory, search for the moment when he'd last said my name without attaching it to something else. Elena, can you pick up the dry cleaning? Elena, what's for dinner? Elena, where are my keys? He couldn't remember. I could see it in his face. 18 months ago, I said. That's the last time you called me Elena without it being a command. 18 months ago, you started calling me you. And I didn't notice. I didn't notice because I'd been waiting so long to be seen that I'd forgotten how to tell the difference. But I see it now. Elena, that's what this is about. Not Claire. Not the affair. Not the money. You stopped seeing me as a person. You started seeing me as a function. A wife. A mother. A housekeeper. A thing that made your life easier. And when Claire came along, she didn't steal you from me. She just gave you permission to stop pretending. I love you, he said. That was the first thing you've said all night. That wasn't a lie. Elena, please. Please don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll go to counseling. I'll break it off with Claire. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't leave me. I love you. I'm sorry. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I love you. Please. I love you. Please. I got up out of the chair. I walked over to the sideboard and picked up the folder I'd left there. I walked back to him and handed it to him. Read this, I said. This is the divorce petition. I've already signed it. He opened it. I watched him read it. I watched his face. He was reading the petition, the summons, the property division. He was reading the alimony. He was reading the asset distribution. He was reading the line where I'd asked for the house, the business assets, the retirement accounts. He looked up at me. This isn't fair. It's what the law says I'm entitled to. I built that business. I built it from nothing. You have no idea. I know exactly what you built. I know because I was there. I know because I managed the house and the kids and the social calendar so you could work. I know because I paid the bills and answered the phone and made sure you had clean shirts for the meetings. I know because I made your life possible. You built the business. But I built you. You're trying to destroy me. No. I'm trying to be done with you. His hands were shaking. He closed the folder and set it on the coffee table. He looked at me for a long time. The fear in his eyes had turned to something else. Something that looked like defeat. What happens now? He asked. You sign those papers. You leave. You find somewhere else to live. We go through mediation. We finalize the divorce. And then I never have to see you again. Elena, please. Please don't do this. Sign the papers, Michael. Give me a week. Just a week to think about it. You've had 18 months to think about it. Sign the papers. I can't. I'm not going to say it again. He looked at the folder. Then back at me. Then back at the folder. He was trying to find an angle, trying to see if there was any way out. But there wasn't. I'd taken all the exits. I'd close every door. He said, You're not going to say anything else? No, I said. I'm not. Michael didn't sign that night. He sat in the living room for another hour, the folder unopened on the coffee table between us. He tried to talk. I didn't let him. Every time he opened his mouth, I just looked at the folder, and he closed it again. I'm not signing this, he finally said. Then leave. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem. I don't have anywhere to go. This is my house. I have a right to be here. You have a right to be in your house, I said. But you're not going to be in mine. The law says I can file for divorce. The law says you can contest it. The law says we can spend the next 2 years in court if you want. But I've got 6 weeks of evidence that says you committed adultery and used marital funds to finance it. So you can sign the papers and we can do this quietly, or we can do this the hard way. Your choice. He stood up. He was shaking, I could see it, the tremor in his hands and the way his jaw was clenched. I never knew you could be like this. Like what? Cruel. Cold. I thought you were better than this. I thought you were faithful. We're both disappointed. He walked toward the front door. He stopped with his hand on the handle. He turned and looked at me, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. He was already trying to figure out his next move, already trying to find a way to turn this around. I'll see you tomorrow, he said. No, you won't. I have things in the house. Clothes. Files. I need to get them. You can come get them when I'm not here. I'll text you a time. If you show up when I'm here, I'll call the police. You're threatening me. Enough is enough. He left. The door clicked shut behind him. I stood in the living room and listened to his footsteps on the porch, the sound of his car starting, the sound of him driving away. I waited until I couldn't hear anything anymore. Then I sat down in the armchair. I didn't cry. I was too tired. I was too empty. I just sat there in the quiet and let the night settle over me. The phone buzzed. Laura. Did he sign? She asked. No. Okay. That's fine. That's normal. Most people don't sign on the first try. He said I'm cruel. He's projecting. That's what they do. They can't handle the consequences, so they blame the person who gave them to them. I should have done this years ago. Maybe. But you're doing it now. That's what matters. I'm so tired, Laura. I'm so tired. Then sleep. You can fall apart tomorrow. Today, you just need to get through the night. Can you do that? Yeah. I can do that. I hung up and sat in the chair until midnight. Then I went to bed. I didn't get undressed. I just lay down on top of the covers and closed my eyes. I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark and thought about everything I'd done. The pool. The announcement. The way Claire's face had gone pale when she realized she'd been caught. The way Michael had tried to lie his way out of it. The way I'd stood in my living room and told him I was done. I'd waited 6 weeks. 6 weeks of watching. 6 weeks of gathering evidence. 6 weeks of pretending I didn't know. And now it was over. Now he knew. Now Claire knew. Now everything was out in the open. I sat up and looked at the clock. 3:30 in the morning. The house was dark and quiet. I walked to the window and looked outside. The street was empty. The neighbor's porch light was on. A dog was barking somewhere in the distance. I went to the closet and opened the door. Michael's clothes were still there. His suits. His shirts. His shoes. I looked at them for a long time. Then I walked to the dresser and opened his drawer. His socks. His underwear. His belts. I started taking things out. I didn't know why. I just needed to move, needed to do something with my hands. I piled his clothes on the bed. His suits. His shirts. His shoes. Everything. I went through the whole closet and took every single thing that belonged to him. In the morning, I'd text him. I'd tell him to come get his stuff. But right now, I needed to see it all in one place. I needed to see how much of my life he'd filled. The pile was enormous. It covered the entire bed. I stood there looking at it, at all of it, at the accumulated evidence of a man who'd been living a double life. The phone buzzed again. It was almost 4 in the morning. I picked it up and looked at the screen. It was Michael. Please let me come back, the message said. We need to talk. I didn't respond. I turned the phone off and went back to the pile of clothes. I found a suitcase. I started packing. When I was done, I had 4 suitcases full of his clothes and shoes and personal items. I put them by the front door. I sat down in the living room and waited for dawn. At 7, I sent him a text. Come get your stuff. The door is unlocked. I'll be in the backyard. He didn't respond. I went to the backyard and sat on the patio. The sun was coming up, the same July sun that had been shining the day before, the day I'd seen Claire in my swimsuit. I watched it rise. I watched the light creep over the fence and spread across the lawn. I heard the front door open. I heard footsteps in the house. I heard him moving through the rooms, picking things up, looking for evidence that I'd been there. I heard him open the front door and carry the suitcases to the car. I didn't move. I stayed on the patio and waited. He came around the corner of the house. He was in different clothes now, a t-shirt and jeans, like he'd changed somewhere else. He had a suitcase in each hand. Where are the rest of them? He asked. By the door. I got 4 suitcases. I need more. That's all you get for now. The rest of it stays with me. My passport is in the nightstand. My business files are in the office. I need those. Your passport is in the nightstand. You can have it back when you sign the papers. Your business files are still there. You can come get them when you sign the papers. You're holding my things hostage. I'm holding your things until you do the right thing. This is insane, Elena. This is insane. You can't just I can. I'm doing it. And the more you argue, the longer it's going to take. He stood there, breathing hard, looking at me. The tremor in his hands had turned into something else, something closer to rage. But he knew better than to say anything else. He knew I wasn't going to back down. This isn't over, he said. You're right. It's not. It's going to be a long, difficult process. And then it'll be over. You think you're going to get the house, you think you're going to get the business, you think you're going to get any of it. I built everything. Everything. And you think you're just going to take it? I built you. I'm just taking what I made. He dropped the suitcases. They thudded on the grass. He stood there, shaking, his fists clenched at his sides. I gave you everything. I gave you a home. I gave you children. I gave you a life. And this is how you repay me. This is how I repay you, I said. I gave you 28 years. I gave you my youth. I gave you my attention. I gave you the best years of my life. And you gave me a sister-in-law in my clothes. That's not fair. I don't care. The words hung between us. I saw his face change, the anger turning into something else. Something that looked like sadness. Something that looked like regret. I never wanted to hurt you, he said. I never meant for any of this to happen. Michael, you cheated on me for 18 months. Every day. Every night. Every time you were with her, you were choosing to hurt me. You didn't accidentally do any of this. You did it on purpose. You're never going to forgive me. No. You're just going to walk away, yes. I don't understand, he said. I don't understand how you can just— I'm not walking away, I said. I'm running. I'm running as fast as I can. And I'm not looking back. He stood there for a long time. Then he picked up the suitcases and walked back to the car. I watched him load them. I watched him get into the driver's seat. I watched him sit there, his hands on the wheel, not moving. He didn't look at me. He put the car in reverse and backed out of the driveway. He drove away. I sat on the patio for another hour. The sun was high now, burning off the morning dew. I watched the light move across the grass. I watched the neighbor's cat walk across the fence. I watched a bird land on the bird bath and splash in the water. I was free. It didn't feel like freedom. It felt like I'd just had surgery and the anesthesia was wearing off. The phone buzzed. Laura. He just called my office, she said. He's lawyering up. Okay. You need to be ready for this. He's going to fight you on everything. I already filed. There's nothing he can do. Actually, there's a lot he can do. He can delay. He can hide assets. He can make this take years. But you're ready for that. You've already started. Just keep going. Where is he staying? Don't know. Don't care. But if I were you, I'd change the locks. I looked at the house. The house I'd spent 28 years building. The house I'd made my own. The house I'd decorated and maintained and protected. Already done, I said. I called a locksmith this morning. Good. That's good. You're doing everything right. How are you feeling? I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling. I don't think I have a feeling. That's called shock. It'll fade. And then you'll feel everything. I should be sad. I should be crying. Why aren't I crying? Because you're still in survival mode. Give it a few days. You'll cry. I don't want to cry. Then don't. But you don't get to control when it happens. Just let it happen. I hung up and went inside. The house was empty. I walked through every room. The kitchen. The dining room. The living room. The bedrooms. The whole house was mine, and it was empty. I walked to the front door. I pulled out my phone and called the kids. Hey, Mom, my daughter said. Everything okay? No, I said. No, it's not. I'm going to need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. But I need you to listen. The line was quiet. I could hear the sound of her breathing. I could hear the noise of her life, the background sound of her moving through her day. I'm divorcing your father. Mom, slow down. What are you talking about? I'm divorcing your father. The line went so quiet I thought she'd hung up. Then Sarah's voice, smaller than I'd heard it since she was 12, because of Aunt Claire. I closed my eyes. My daughter knew. She'd known before I did, or she'd suspected, or she'd seen something I'd missed. The weight of that sat on my chest like a stone. How long have you known? 6 weeks. I found out 6 weeks ago. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. I was going to wait until I knew what I was doing, but I can't keep pretending. Mom, I knew. I knew something was wrong. I saw them at the airport 6 months ago. I was coming back from a work trip, and I saw them at the gate. They didn't see me, but I saw them. I pressed my hand against the wall. You saw them. And you didn't tell me. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if it was real. They were just standing there, talking. But the way he was looking at her. Sarah. I know. I should have told you. I've been carrying it for 6 months. I've been so scared that it would destroy everything. That it would destroy you. I thought I was protecting you by not saying anything. You were protecting yourself. No. I was protecting you. I didn't want to be the one who broke your heart. I sat down on the stairs, the phone pressed to my ear. When did you get so grown up? When you weren't looking? We were both quiet for a long moment. I could hear her breathing. I could hear her crying. I love you, I said. I love you more than anything in this world. And I'm not going to lie to you. This is hard. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. But I need to do it. I need to be free of him. I know, Mom. I know. I'm going to tell your brother next. He'll be okay. He might not be okay right away, but he'll be okay. We're both adults, Mom. We can handle it. He's still your father. He's still my father. But he's not the father I thought he was. I hung up the phone and sat on the stairs for a long time. Then I called James. Hey, Mom, he said. His voice was warm, familiar, the same voice that had called me from college and summer camp and every stage of his growing up. Everything okay? No. It's not. I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. Is Dad okay? Your dad is fine. He's not hurt. But I'm divorcing him. The line was quiet. Okay, he finally said. Okay, tell me everything. I did. I told him about the pool, about the swimsuit, about Claire, about the affair, about the credit card charges and the hotel receipts and the 6 weeks I'd spent gathering evidence. I told him everything I'd told Sarah, and I told it all in the same steady voice. He listened. He didn't interrupt. He just let me talk. I'm sorry, I said when I was finished. I'm sorry you have to hear this from me. I'm sorry you have to go through this at all. Mom, stop apologizing. You didn't do anything wrong. I know, but I still hate that you're going through this. I'm going through what I'm an adult. I've got my own life. This doesn't change anything. It just changes the way I think about Dad. He's still your father. I know, but you're still my mother. And you're the one who stayed. You're the one who built everything. You're the one who held us together. And he made a mistake. A big one. A terrible one. But he's still your father. Mom, don't defend him. Not to me. Not after everything. I sat there in the quiet. I didn't have the energy to defend anyone. I didn't have the energy for anything but breathing. He'll want to talk to you, I said. He'll call. He'll try to explain his side. Then he'll explain his side. And I'll listen. And then I'll tell him what I think. James. Mom. I love you. I love you more than anything. And I'm not going to let him destroy you. Not now. Not ever. I'm not destroyed. I know you're not. That's what I'm saying. You're not destroyed. You're just getting started. I hung up and sat in the quiet. The house was empty. The sun was setting through the window, orange and red and gold. I watched it drop below the horizon. I watched the colors fade into gray. My children knew. They'd known before I told them. They'd been carrying their own secrets. And they'd still managed to be better than their father. That was when I started to cry. Not the big ugly sobs I'd been expecting. Just a slow leak. A release of pressure I'd been holding for 6 weeks. I sat on the stairs and let it happen. I let the tears run down my face. I let myself feel all of it. The betrayal. The anger. The relief. The grief. The fear. The hope. When I was done, I walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of water. I drank it slowly. I looked at my reflection in the window. A woman in her 50s, her face flushed and her eyes red, her hair flat from the swim cap I'd worn at the pool. I looked at myself the way I'd look at a stranger. You're okay, I said to her. You're going to be okay. The phone buzzed. Laura again. He's asking for a settlement conference, she said. He wants to sit down and negotiate. Do I have to go now? But it looks better if you do. It makes you seem reasonable. You can go in there, say what you need to say, and walk out. It'll be over in an hour. Where? His attorney's office. Friday at 10. Fine. Elena. You don't have to do this. I can do it for you. I can go in there and fight it out. You don't need to be in the room. No. I want to be in the room. I want him to see me. I want him to see that I'm not afraid. Okay. Then we'll do it together. I hung up and went to the bedroom. The pile of clothes I'd taken from the dresser was still on the floor. I picked up a shirt, his shirt, the one I'd always loved the way it felt, soft and worn from 100 washes. I held it for a second. Then I dropped it in the donation box I'd put together. I couldn't keep his things. I couldn't look at them. They were just reminders of a person who didn't exist anymore. I found the folder with the photos. The screenshots of the credit card statements. The pictures of Claire's necklace. The photos of the hotel receipts. I added the photos I'd taken of Michael's passport. I added the phone records. I added everything. I put it all in a new folder, a red folder with the word evidence written on it in marker. I walked through the house one more time. The living room, the dining room, the kitchen, the bedrooms, the office. Every room was a memory. Every room was a regret. Every room was a door I was about to close. I sat down in the armchair and looked out the window. The neighbor's cat was walking across the lawn again, its bell jingling softly. I watched it move. I watched it stop and sit and watch me. I'm not going to keep doing this, I said to the cat. I'm not going to keep waiting for things to change. The cat looked at me. Then it stood up and walked away. I laughed. I laughed because I couldn't cry anymore. I laughed because the cat had more sense than I'd had for 28 years. The next few days were a blur. Laura sent me emails and documents, and I signed them. I changed the locks on the house. I opened a separate bank account. I started moving my money, the money I'd earned, the money I'd saved, the money I'd contributed. I started taking control of everything I'd let go for so long. Michael didn't call. He didn't text. I didn't know if it was strategy or shame. I didn't care. I was too busy building my new life, one piece at a time, one decision at a time. On Thursday night, I sat in the living room and looked at the red folder. Evidence. I opened it and went through it. Everything I'd gathered, everything I'd documented. I ran my hands over the pages. I felt the weight of it. There's enough in here to destroy him, I said out loud. But that's not what this is about. I closed the folder and put it in my bag. Friday morning came faster than I expected. I showered and dressed in a dark blue dress. I put on makeup. I wore the red nail polish I'd gotten at the salon. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who wasn't afraid. Laura picked me up at 8:30. She was wearing a charcoal suit and carrying a briefcase. She looked at me and nodded. Ready? She asked. No. But I'm not going to let that stop me. I got in the car. She drove. We didn't talk. There was nothing to say that hadn't already been said. We got to the lawyer's office at 9:45. The building was glass and steel, the kind of building that tried too hard to impress. I walked through the lobby and onto the elevator. I watched the numbers climb. I watched the doors open. Michael's lawyer was a man named Alan, thin and bald and sharp-eyed. He met us at the door. Elena. Good to see you again. I didn't remember ever seeing him before. I didn't care. Michael was already in the room. He was sitting at the table, a folder in front of him, his hands folded. He looked up when I walked in. His face was pale and drawn. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Elena, he said. Michael. I sat across from him. Laura sat next to me. Alan sat at the head of the table. The four of us sat there in the quiet, the air thick with things that had been said and things that hadn't. Thank you for coming, Alan said. We appreciate your willingness to negotiate. I'm not here to negotiate, I said. I'm here to tell you what I'm willing to accept. Michael's lawyer raised an eyebrow. You're not willing to compromise. I'm willing to compromise on specifics. I'm not willing to compromise on the outcome. I'm getting the house, I'm getting alimony, I'm getting half of the business assets. That's what I'm willing to accept. Everything else is negotiable. Elena, Michael said, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life. Listen to me, please. I know I made a mistake. I know I hurt you. But this isn't fair. You're not being fair. I'm not being fair, Michael. You cheated on me for 18 months. You used our money to buy your sister-in-law gifts. You took everything I gave you and you threw it away. And now you're going to sit there and tell me I'm not being fair. I'm sorry, Elena. I've said I'm sorry 100 times. Saying you're sorry isn't the same as being sorry. If I could go back and undo it, I would. But you can't. You can't undo it. You can't undo the last 18 months. You can't undo the 6 weeks I spent watching you. You can't undo the way I felt when I saw Claire in my swimsuit. You can't undo any of it. So don't sit there and tell me you're sorry. Show me you're sorry. Sign the papers. Michael looked at Alan. His lawyer was watching him, his expression unreadable. It's your call, Alan said. I can't make this decision for you. This is a lot to walk away from. But you're not going to win this fight. She has the evidence, and she's not going to back down. Michael didn't say anything. He just sat there, his hands shaking. I need you to understand, I said. This isn't about Claire. It was never about Claire. This is about you. About the person you are. About the person you've always been. I just didn't see it until now. You're right, he said. You're right. I was a terrible husband. I was a terrible husband, and I knew it, and I didn't change. I didn't change because I didn't think you'd find out. I didn't change because I didn't think you'd leave. And now I know you're leaving. Now I know I've lost you. You lost me a long time ago, Michael. You just didn't notice. He pulled the folder toward him. He opened it. I watched him sign the papers. I watched him write his name on every page. I stood up. Laura put her hand on my arm. You okay? Yeah. I'm okay. I walked to the door. I turned back and looked at him one last time. The man I'd married. The man I'd built a life with. The man I'd loved. Don't call me again, I said. I walked out of the office and into the hallway. The elevator was waiting for me. I pressed the button. I watched the doors close. I had everything. I had the house. I had the money. I had my life. And I had myself. The elevator doors opened into the lobby, and I walked out into the July sun. Laura was right behind me. She didn't say anything. She just put her hand on my shoulder and squeezed. I'll drop you home, she said. No. I want to walk. Elena, it's 90 degrees. I don't care. She looked at me for a long second. Then she nodded. Okay, but call me if you need anything. Anything at all. I will. I walked. I walked down the street past the glass office buildings and the coffee shops and the dry cleaners. I walked past people in suits and people in shorts and people walking dogs and people pushing strollers. I walked until I found a bench in a small park, a patch of green between two buildings, and I sat down. I looked at my hands. The red nail polish was still perfect. I'd sat through that manicure like it was the most important thing in the world. And now I was sitting on a bench in a park with the divorce papers signed and my husband gone and my life completely different. I didn't know what to do next. I sat on that bench for an hour. Maybe two. I watched the people walk by. I watched a woman jog past with her hair in a ponytail and earbuds in her ears. I watched a man in a business suit sit on the bench next to mine and eat a sandwich. I watched a group of children run through the grass, their laughter bouncing off the buildings. I thought about the pool, the water, the chlorine, the way Claire had looked in my suit, the way Michael had looked when he signed the papers. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I just felt still. Like the storm had passed and I was standing in the middle of the wreckage, and it wasn't as bad as I'd thought it would be. I pulled out my phone. Sarah had texted. How did it go? I typed back. He signed. It's over. She responded immediately. Are you okay? I'm going to be. I'm sitting in a park. Which park? The one near the lawyer's office. Stay there. I'm coming. Sarah, you're in Portland. I'm coming, Mom. I'll be there tomorrow morning. Wait for me. I stared at the phone. She was going to fly across the country because I was sitting in a park. Because I'd just ended my marriage. Because she was my daughter and she loved me. I'll be here, I typed. I walked home. The house was empty, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like mine. I walked through every room, touching the walls, the furniture, the things I'd collected over the years. I looked at the curtains I'd sewed. I looked at the photos on the walls. I looked at the books on the shelves. I opened the closet. Michael's clothes were gone. The space on his side was empty. I looked at it for a long time. Then I walked to the dresser and opened my drawer. I pulled out the swimsuit I'd bought, the one Claire had worn, the one I'd never worn myself. I held it up. The tags were still attached. I looked at it in the mirror. I took the tags off. I put it on. I looked at myself in the full-length mirror on the back of the door. I looked good. I looked strong. I looked like someone who was ready to start over. I walked downstairs in the swimsuit. I opened the back door and walked onto the patio. The pool was in the backyard, a small rectangle of blue water that I'd insisted on installing 10 years ago. Michael had thought it was a waste of money. I'd wanted it anyway. I'd wanted a place to swim that wasn't the club. I walked to the edge. I dove in. The water was cold and clear. I swam lap after lap, the same rhythm I'd used at the club, the same stroke I'd been doing for years. But this time it was different. This time I wasn't swimming to stay in shape. I was swimming to feel alive. I climbed out of the pool and sat on the edge. The water dripped off the suit, my suit, the one I'd bought for myself. I sat there in the afternoon sun and watched the light play on the surface. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. I'd left him. I'd taken back my life. I'd made it through 6 weeks of watching and waiting and gathering evidence, and I'd made it through the confrontation and the signing and the walking away. I was on the other side. Sarah arrived at 7 the next morning. I heard the taxi pull up, heard the front door open, heard her voice calling my name. I was in the kitchen making coffee, still in my pajamas. Mom. She came into the kitchen and hugged me. She held me tight, tighter than she'd held me since she was a little girl. Are you okay? Are you really okay? I'm okay, honey. I'm really okay. I was so scared. I was so scared that you'd fall apart. That he'd break you. He didn't break me. He couldn't break me. I'm too strong. She pulled back and looked at my face. You are. You're the strongest person I know. I'm not. I'm just someone who finally stopped being afraid. We sat in the kitchen for 2 hours. We drank coffee and talked about everything and nothing. She told me about her job, her boyfriend, her life in Portland. She told me about the things that had been happening while I'd been distracted by my own marriage. She told me about the apartment she wanted to buy and the dog she'd been thinking about adopting. I didn't know any of this, I said. Of course you didn't. You were dealing with your own stuff. Your father and I, we never asked you how you were doing. We were so wrapped up in our own lives. I'm sorry. Mom. Stop. You don't need to apologize for that. You were being a mom. That's what moms do. They worry about their kids and forget to worry about themselves. I'm going to do better, I said. From now on, I'm going to do better. Good. Because I'm going to be around a lot more. I'm going to be around, and I'm going to make sure you're okay. I don't need you to make sure I'm okay. I'm already okay. I know. But I'm going to be around anyway. We spent the day together. We went to lunch. We walked through the neighborhood. We sat in the backyard and watched the sun go down. We talked about everything except Michael. That night, after Sarah went to bed, I sat in the living room. The house was quiet, the way it had been quiet for so many years. But this time it was different. This time it was quiet because I was the only person in it, and I was okay with that. My phone buzzed. Michael. I looked at his name on the screen. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No longing. Just the weight of a person who no longer mattered. I didn't answer. I turned the phone face down on the table. In the morning, I got dressed and went for a walk. I walked past the houses I dreamed of owning, past the coffee shop where I'd spent so many afternoons, past the grocery store where I'd run into Claire. I walked past the places where my old life had happened, and I kept walking. When I got home, Sarah was making breakfast. I helped her. We made pancakes and bacon and eggs. We sat at the table and ate. Or when do you go back? I asked. I don't have to go back. I took a leave of absence. Sarah, you can't just take a leave of absence. I can. I did. I needed to be here. And I needed to make sure you were going to be okay. I already told you. I'm okay. I know. But I wanted to see it for myself. I looked at her. She had her mother's eyes. She had her mother's determination. She had everything I'd given her, and she was using it to take care of me. Fine, I said. But you're not staying forever. Wouldn't dream of it. I have a life in Portland. But I'm staying for a while. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Long enough to make sure you're actually okay. I am actually okay. I know. But I'm going to stay anyway. She stayed for a week and a half. We painted the living room. We rearranged the furniture. We threw out the things that didn't matter and kept the things that did. We made the house ours, hers and mine, a place that didn't have Michael in it anymore. She left on a Sunday. I drove her to the airport. I hugged her at the curb. Call me, she said. Every day. Even if you have nothing to say. Just call me. Every day. And if Dad calls you, don't answer. I won't. And if you feel like you're going to fall apart, call me. I'll be here. I'm not going to fall apart. I know. But if you do, I want to be there. Sarah. Yes, I love you. More than you'll ever know. I know, Mom. I know. She walked into the terminal. I watched her go. Then I got in my car and drove home. The house was quiet. It had always been quiet. But now it was a different kind of quiet. Now it was the quiet of peace. I went inside and sat in the armchair. The armchair by the window. The one I'd always sat in. I looked out at the front yard. The neighbor's cat was walking across the lawn. I watched it move. I watched it sit and groom itself. I watched it get up and walk away. My phone buzzed. Sarah, I made it. Flight was fine. I miss you already. I typed back, I miss you too. Now go live your life. I sat in the chair. The afternoon light shifted through the window, the way it had shifted 1,000 times before. But now I was seeing it differently. Now I was seeing it as a woman who wasn't waiting for anything. I could have been bitter. I could have been angry. I could have spent the rest of my life being the woman who'd been wronged. But I wasn't. I was the woman who'd walked away. I was the woman who'd taken back her life. He called. The number was blocked. He'd figured out I wouldn't answer. I picked up anyway. Elena. His voice was rough, tired. I know you told me not to call. But I need to hear your voice. I need to know you're okay. I'm fine. I didn't think I'd lose you. I thought you'd forgive me. I thought we'd work it out. Michael. I know. I know. I'm not going to ask you to take me back. I just need to know you don't hate me. I don't hate you. Then what do you feel? I thought about the question. I thought about the 28 years we'd spent together. I thought about the pool and the swimsuit and the papers and the walking away. I feel sorry for you, I said. I feel sorry that you didn't know what you had until it was gone. You're not going to say anything else. That's the first time you've ever asked. He was quiet. I could hear him breathing. I could hear the weight of everything he hadn't said. Elena, he said. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for lying to you. I'm sorry for making you feel like you weren't enough. You didn't make me feel like I wasn't enough. I made myself feel that way. I spent 28 years trying to be enough for someone who couldn't see me. That's not your fault. That's mine. You're not going to take any of it back, no. What are you going to do? I'm going to live my life. I'm going to do the things I should have done years ago. I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to travel. I'm going to find out who I am without you. I hope you find what you're looking for. I already have. I hung up. I sat in the armchair and looked out the window. The sun was setting. Orange and red and gold. He asked if I would be okay. I said, that's the first time you've ever asked. I sat there until the sun went down. Then I got up and walked into the kitchen. I poured a glass of wine. I drank it standing at the counter. I looked around at the house I'd made. Tomorrow, I'd start looking for work. I'd call the design firms. I'd update my portfolio. I'd do everything I'd been putting off for 28 years. But tonight, I was going to sit in the quiet. I was going to enjoy the silence. I was going to be exactly who I was. I walked into the living room and sat in the armchair. I looked out the window at the dark. I'd made it. I'd actually made it. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. I just sat there, in the quiet, in the dark, and I was free.